Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Crownsman Show. I'm your host, Jared Downey. Joining me is Gowdy Molina. Good morning, Gowdy.
Good morning.
How are you doing?
I'm doing good.
Good. We've got a show today that is going to cover pipeline and tailing dam leak detection. So a bit of a hot topic.
Very.
We're even going to get into some sawmill industry stuff. It's going to cover a lot of ground. We're featuring Hawk measurement systems. We're going to have Graham Bridgman on the show. He is the, let me get this right, measurement and mining specialist for Hawk. And we're going to force them to jump around in a few different sectors because we want to cover a little bit of everything that Hawk measurement does.
Right.
But we'll probably land on a little more mining stuff. But they're doing crazy stuff with like fiber optic detection and it's neat stuff. Before we do that, Gowdy, who are our sponsors of the Crownsman Show?
All right. So for this episode, we have Savannah Equipment. Savannah Equipment supplies new and used mining equipment around the world, from placer to underground to ore processing plants. They have gold concentrating tables, trommels, and mineral jigs in stock now to take advantage of the high gold prices. You can visit them at savannahEquipment.com, where you will find more equipment every day. And of course, contact us to be part of the Crownsman Show. Tell your company's story to thousands of heavy industry professionals every week. Remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss a single episode. And last but not least, we also have PowerZone. When you need a specialized team of world-class engineers for your oil and gas, pipelines, dewatering, or any fluid handling needs, you want to visit powerzone.com. In addition to their inventory of rebuilt pumps, motors, engines, they also have an amazing team to design and engineer your systems, no matter the challenge, no matter the location. Get in the zone with PowerZone. Visit them at powerzone.com. All right.
Thank you very much, Gowdy. And thank you for all the people that are getting us in touch with guests. It makes it much more interesting. And because we're not just in our little bubble, getting the people that we know.
I know.
So thank you for all that support. Graham, welcome to the show. Glad to feature you and Hawk Measurement Systems. Very interesting company. So thanks for joining us. You're in Kamloops. That's where Rory is based out of. So a little bit of hometown guest feel today.
Yes, thank you very much. I think I actually met yourself and Rory at the CIM MIMO show in Kamloops, October 2019.
Yeah, we were doing Mining Now over there. That was actually a lot of fun. That was one of our first events in a couple years doing live. It was great, the support that CIM gave us for that.
Yeah, it turned out to be a very good show for us too.
Yeah, it sort of it brings up some nostalgia. Mm-hmm. Good days when you actually could go to those shows.
Yeah.
Let's jump into the industries that Hawk covers, because I did my little intro, but it really you can't. I didn't really cover it. So let's touch on. Let's start with industries, and then I want to jump into some highlighted products that you deliver. So, what industries is Hawk primarily covering?
Primarily because they came out of the mining industry in Australia. So a large part of our focus is mining. But as well as mining, you'll see a lot of the same problems or solutions are applied into materials handling too. You're handling a bulk solid. There's a lot of challenges that come with that, right? And then we also have, a lot of the technologies that go across sections. So they go into oil and gas for measurement, but many different industries, pulp and paper, forestry industry in general. It covers a large cross-section of industries. The bulk would be mining, petrochemical, forestry, materials handling for Canada so far. And then we always do get hit with the weird and wonderful too.
The weird and the wonderful.
Yeah.
As you were saying, it started in mining, it made me think, do you think that it's easier for companies that start in mining, especially when you have sensor technology and measurement technology, because mining encompasses so many different, from bulk handling to wastewater to refining, it's so many elements to it. Do you think it's easier for a company that starts in the mining sector to then transfer over their technology over onto other industries?
I actually do. I think it's harder to go the other way. So I definitely agree with that. Once you hit some of the tougher measurements, which you're going to find in any industry. I mean, you're not typically going to find things like depending on the type of a mine, but you don't usually find, a lot of continuous gas analysis, but you're still all of your things like physical properties, densities, all those things are common throughout them all. So if you start in mining, you can adapt any knowledge to other industries all the way through.
Well, I saw this fiber optic sensing system, and I want to talk a little bit about that because that's sort of a standout, and it's one of those technologies that's transferable. I think it applies to the tailings ponds. It applies to pipelines. Of course, both, as I said at the beginning of the show, very hot topics. And that's a sort of a standout product for you. So can you tell us a little bit more about it?
Yeah. On the Praetorian fiber optic system, and they named it after the Praetorian Guard that protected, the Roman Guard that protected Caesar, and basically it's the sense of having that type of security around your system in the industry. Traditionally, we how would you say, we first started with really conveyor systems, and then we went to pipeline leak detection, and then into tailings dam monitoring. In essence, what we do is we have an interrogator and a server at, I would call, the front end. And we run then a deployment fiber to the point where we start to want to measure. And then we run a sensing fiber up either the pipeline leak, the perimeter security, wherever we're running the sensing fiber along. In the conveyor case, we want it on both sides. And then we shoot a laser up there. And basically then we're looking for backscatter. The anomaly will create a backscatter. And we monitor all three of the traditional terms of backscatter when you're talking about spectroscopy. So you'd be monitoring the Raman backscatter, the Brillouin backscatter, and the Rayleigh backscatter. Once you do that, then the big secret is what do you do with all the noise? You're bringing back a lot of noise with those signals. And how do you deal with basically getting a usable signal out? And that's really where we excel. We know how we can get the usable signal and get rid of the noise with our wavelet denoising and all of our algorithms.
Forgive the layman questions. I don't know how many times I've said that on this show, but when you do this many interviews, you run into a lot of stuff that you don't understand. So I'm going to ask a couple questions just to set it up. When you say a fiber optic system, is this the same fiber optic that people are running to their house, or is there some sort of different sort of sensor? Where is that? Where is the sensing capability coming from with these? And we have videos and we'll bring it up, but where is that actual sensing capability coming from?
To answer the first one, it isn't the same fiber. We use the basic standard fiber as the deployment cable just to get the light to the measurement area. Then we use either a fiber that is good for acoustic sensing, temperature sensing, or strain gauge. And each one of those would have basically the sensing capability of like 320,000 microphones or 600 and some odd thousand strain gauge measurement devices. You run it consistently along. So it is an actual sensing fiber. And this whole body is governed by FOSA, Fiber Optic Sensing Association.
I saw that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So is the cable itself the sensor? So
correct.
I understand there's a beginning and end to it, but that whole cable, if it's, so let's say, running along a pipe, and I saw that in the video, it's running along this pipe, is the whole entire thing becomes the sensor then?
Yes. Every 250 millimeters, basically, it's got a separate sensing point all the way up the cable for a maximum distance of 40 kilometers per channel. Depending on application, conveyors, we want to keep it to 20 kilometers per channel.
I see.
Right now.
So, so then it's getting this data back, and it's telling you in real time what if there's any disruption. Is it telling you anything else, or is that the key measurement that it's looking for?
No, we get into the point there where you're in a self-learning atmosphere. So you're not just going to get a spike and then let's say a 4 to 20 or an alarm signal. You're going to be getting an entire Modbus package. So right, the computer is always designed to continuous learn. Then we pick up anomalies, and then what we do is we scale the alarms on level of priority M1 through M4. Level 4 would be watch it, kind of thing. Level 3 would be make sure you have one in stock. We see a problem in this exact area here. Time of flight from the laser is not just identified that you have a problem. The backscatter has told you where it is, right? And that's the basic, the speed of light. We know exactly where the backscatter is. So then we know where it is, and then it says, okay, it's getting noisier now. And this is in the case of, let's say, a conveyor system. Those are the ones where we find that they're the hardest, because then you get to a point where it says, okay, now we're at the point where we've looked at this and it's a Luff idler, this model number. You got 2 weeks left, and then
Wow.
to level 1. That's failure. That's like you've failed now. That idler is stuck and overheating now. Everything is happening to it. So it gives you that ability for predictive maintenance, making sure you've got the replacement in stock, taking the time to send your maintenance people out to change that before you have a catastrophic failure.
Yeah, and that's the part, because I watched the pipeline video, so I was thinking of it more as in, okay, it's disruptive and it lets you know right away, but it's
Yeah,
actually a preventative tool as well.
absolutely. You can monitor it through each stage of the fault. So you do have leeway there. And then also what it's going to do is you're going to be able to bring in, I like to call it personality, really, what of your territory. Let's say we're going back to a pipeline and we're going to go underneath a road. Well, we now know that we're going underneath a road. So now we're looking at vibrations from a road. And we now say to the computer and the interrogator, that's okay, that's a road, right?
Right.
You can tell the difference of somebody digging with a backhoe as opposed to somebody digging with a shovel. You can tell if there's 2 people walking along it, or if there's 3 people, or 1, or is it a deer?
Mm.
All these things, go in the burn-in period of helping it learn your territory, really. And then once it does, you can set up your faults. You can look at things and go like, yeah, that train, it goes underneath the tracks there, and the train shows up between 3 and 4 every day. So we know that that's a railway and that's a train, right?
Right.
So
So this is, so to add to that, then this is a long term. This is not somebody, you're not putting this sensor on some sort of portable operation. This is something that's going to be there for, 5, 10 years, and you're going to be, or more, of course, but you're going to be developing the information it has to send back to you, essentially.
yeah. Typically, on a control platform, most of them, they would want to tie that into what they call their data historian. And then what they're going to do there is start their trending functionality. And then they'll be able to trend issues and see if they can pick up any patterns of the trend itself. Typically, then they would push out their own alarms, that would go out to their people, scale them in a level of urgency, and, deal with them internally in which way they would normally deal with them.
Yeah, that was my next question. When you put in a system like this, I mean, this hasn't been around. How long has it been around? This
Um,
technology, like in an operating commercial sense.
It really not long at all. There's only a few of these operating in the planet, and there's a little bit of competition out there, um, but I would say 6 years maximum. This technology's been around.
So now, how about reading the data though? When you get this, is okay. So it's been in, let's say, commercial use for 6 or 7 years. Let's say
Mhm.
now you're trying to. Now, are they is Hawk coming in and actually training a mining operation or a pipeline operator, whoever it may be? Are they training them to input the data, to read the data, or is this sort of industry standard? The actual data they get, is that the way it's delivered to them? Is that pretty a standard way, or is that a new system as well?
No, it's a standard. We do give you communication options on which way you want to receive this information, right? So we work with them and tailor it to their whatever their preferences are.
So okay. So this now on the training aspect, is there a part where Hawk is coming in and actually providing that like hands-on support?
Absolutely, and this is one of the things that has made us successful. Is a lot of our competition does what I call, they want to black box the customer, so that data package goes back to their office, they massage it and configure it and send it back to the customer. Whereas we believe that the customer is in complete ownership of our system. We're supported. We support them. We stay online with them for the commissioning, and then we back off. And the only way we go back into their system is if they want us to. They're having an issue, or maybe they're picking up an anomaly that they don't know what it is. Then they invite us back in. We dial back in and we look at their system. But our whole business model is based on complete ownership by the customer and complete support from Hawk Measurement.
Right. Switching back over to Hawk Measurement, the as a company, can you give us a little background? Usually I do that at the beginning, but I wanted to jump into that fiber topic. The the company itself, where is it based out of?
Melbourne, Australia is the head office, and that's where all this was developed from. And a place called Nunwading, an outskirt of Melbourne. We also have an office in Medina, Ohio, and then we also have two people now in Canada, and people scattered throughout the world too.
Is there a couple other products? I mean, you have so many, and that's one of the challenges of doing an interview like
Mhm.
this is just trying to pick the right streams and sort of applicable to the people that are watching. It's sort of a hit or miss, but are there, 3, 4 products that you would, someone coming away from this interview, you'd want them to understand that Hawk offers this?
Yeah, yeah, no, most definitely. I mean, we didn't cut our teeth with a fiber optic system. Obviously, this is fairly new technology, and there's an awful lot of R&D that goes involved. But I'd also like to mention is one of the things that attracted me to Hawk is their R&D principles. 25% of all revenue goes back to R&D. So we spend a lot of time developing these technologies. And one of the other things is that they never got caught up in gimmickry. It goes back to that wonderful saying, like, necessity is the mother of invention.
Mm.
So what are we trying to do? We find a way to make a measurement better. And that's the whole principle of what Hawk does. It may not be the fanciest, the slickest looking device, but it'll sure measure it better than anyone else. An example is the acoustic wave, low frequency, high power measurements. They're unbelievably good for applications where other technologies fail. And we also have open air radar. We've got, guided wave radar, but we won't try them in other applications where we have to go up against other customers. Then there's the Orca, which is a sonar system where we're actually several of the big manufacturers of thickeners have standardized on our product for a worldwide basis. What it does is it's a transducer that sits semi-submerged in your thickener itself, and then it pulses down a sound wave. Now we have a much larger transducer. We've got the largest in the market. Therefore, we can hit mining applications, but we not only give them bed level at the bottom of their thickener, we also give them a second output that measures the buildup of the particles and particulate, the solid buildup in the hindered or clarifying zone. That allows them to manage their flock dosing and save them a ton of money. Our block chute microwave switches were stencil lined or name branded by Thermal Ramsey for years. We've been around making these for other people. They're a standard of the industry, and we've got those three products right there are our top three sellers. They keep the lights on, right? And people use them because they work, and there's nothing really else there on the market that does the job as well as them.
We said something about the company not being gimmicky, and we during this show we run into a lot of gimmicky. we try
Yeah.
we try to we try to not have much of that on the show. Unfortunately, not being the experts, we can't always tell. But I did notice, I went onto the company and I saw the reviews from the company, and something that stood out to me as I kind of glossed through them. So many companies, when you see the review, it's they were wonderful. Their team, it almost looks like you kind of message somebody. We might even have some of those reviews online for us, and someone just wrote something nice for you because they know you.
Yeah.
Your reviews were very specific. It was like, we used the Sultan and it had a number and it helped us with this. They were very specific, and it was like, no, the Hawk solved the problem. You can't make up that review. And I read through about 3 or 4 of them, and they were all very similar. And that says something about the company, that it's not, the service. I mean, I've dealt with your team, Ellen, from your team from the very beginning, and meeting you at Mimo. It's a very engaged team. So the service is clearly there, but the solving the solution, you can just see that from the customers, not from what you're saying, but from the customers are saying, that seems to be the core value, really getting in there and solving the problem.
Yeah, we don't we do not walk away from problems at all. We stay on site until it's working and the customer's happy. We do good follow-up support, but it goes back to that first thing, is that these products were developed around a problem. Like the Sultan sonar, acoustic wave was built around the problem of trying to measure in really, really dusty or high moisture conditions, and where maybe you have a changing dielectric, and that's where we're using those, high powered sound waves, as opposed to trying to use a radar type measurement. But they're all built around an existing problem, and going back to that saying of necessity is the mother of invention, right? And so it isn't something that's just like, now we got new flashing blinking lights. No, I don't think we'll ever do that, right? It'll be we figured out how to measure something through a steel wall.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Which is what the industry is looking for. I mean, yeah. I've made those mistakes. The industry is not about flash, it's about value. That's why we do these hour-long shows rather than 2 minutes of talking about how wonderful a company is. Nobody would be interested in that. They want this details and understanding. And there's I saw on your website. I'll stumble through and I'll let you unpack it for me. I saw it's the title is Non-Intrusive Fluid ID and Monitoring. I saw it and I see it looks like you've done work with the Navy for it. And I mean, there's a lot to it. It could probably be its own show. But could you touch on that a little bit, and what sort of makes it, maybe start off with what an intrusive product would look like, and then show the counter to it?
Yeah. Intrusive, or like they always used to say, in situ or non in situ for a type of measurement. The technology is based on sound waves and then actually identifying an acoustic fingerprint. The acoustic fingerprint has a direct correlation to physical properties. And once they made that correlation, then, like the industrial applications opened up like crazy. But the initial applications were military applications, checking artillery, seeing if there's actually an explosive in there, or is it full of sarin gas or chlorine gas, or used for smuggling? What's inside that vessel. Of course, you don't want to open the vessel up and expose yourself to the poisonous contents. So by pulsing a sound wave from a transducer through the metal wall, or the whatever type of wall it is, then we can pick up the acoustic fingerprint. Once we pick up the acoustic fingerprint, we know what it is. And we've got a huge library of different sounds and velocities for just a massive amount of of different things that we can measure with this. So it is a very, very exciting new technology. Not just for the fluid identification. They wrote, if you take a look at the API 2350 ruling for tank overfill protection, they've basically, it looks like it was written around one of these products. It states that you can take your tank from 80% full to 90% full by having a redundant overfill protection switch. So you can take this and you can take it on and strap it to the side of your tank at the 90% mark and battery power it, send the signal out wireless. You have to have a redundant communication, redundant power. That immediately gives you 12% more volume in every tank without building another tank.
Yeah.
That one thing alone. And then getting into the fluid ID, the amount of analytical measurements that can be done with the fluid ID are opening up like crazy. The 3 products we've got are the high tank level alarm right now. The next one would be transmix. And typically, if you're in a pipeline, the Trans Mountain pipeline flows right from me through you guys, right? If you were to take a look at what a typical transmix measurement they would do, is they would use a viscosity probe and perhaps density to be able to pick up the change of what is flowing in that pipeline. Right now, you have 2 holes in the pipe, right? I don't know what caused that leak in Abbotsford. I believe that was last year or the year before, but it was off of a 1-inch sample line. That's your first thing that like gets rid of. This straps to the outside of the pipe, and we can tell when you're done shipping your crude oil through there, your heavy crude, and you're onto jet fuel now. And what we can do there is reduce your transmix waste by 50% because you can switch your valves that much quicker. You're having an instantaneous measurement.
It must be nice when you're selling and putting together these packages for people, when it's so obvious that you can make their operation safety and save them money by not having to
You're
buy
bringing,
that.
yeah, absolutely. You're bringing value to the table, right? You're walking in and people, their eyes and ears open up very, very quickly. And I do like I think I'm lucky on this on my end, because before I started with Hawk, I came from a company that did all these analytical measurements, online measurements, and I learned a lot from there. And as soon as I got introduced with this, I went, oh my God, like if we could talk about the future measurements for days that can come out of this, that we just have to finish developing 6 core products before we get tackle the rest, right? So
Yeah.
we want to make sure we're hitting the market ready to go, not dabbling or releasing something too early.
Yeah, it's no, excuse me. Yeah, it's, when I probably did let's say, I'll pick a number, the 20th show, I was kind of in that situation where I thought, okay, well, how many more shows before we start being repetitive about what we're talking about? And I got the answer about, you need to do about 10,000 shows, because the more we dig, the more stuff we find. I mean, Hawk measurement right here, you talk, we've got 5 lines right here, just in that we've discussed in the last 30 minutes. And we haven't even dug into as much technical stuff as we could on there. Does it still baffle you, the amount of technology that is coming out, especially out of the mining sector? But I mean, we do the energy show, it's the same out of the energy sector, and agriculture has it. And it's just, are you still amazed by how much innovation is just getting pumped into these industries now?
I think more of it is on the analytics side. So the measurement and then the remote asset management. Like how do you remotely monitor all these different assets and quantify what you're doing and qualify it, then quantify your results, right? And I'm seeing in this actual, how do we measure this? How do we measure that? How do we actually get these values and then put it in and create our profile for every different application, for every different customer, every different, whether it's a mine, any type of industry. So this drill down on the analytics is on that end. That's where I'm seeing the technology is coming out, just like leaps and bounds, computer speed, right?
Yeah. And do you think it is even I mean, is it even close to done? I mean, is it in 10 years? Are we just going to be baffled by the amount of measurement and technology and the speed of it and the data that it provides you through, all these, smart technology and computers that are learning in real time and all that sort of stuff?
I think we're gonna get to a point, and then we have to wait for right now one like you have to move forward with all different technologies, right? It can't just be one technology.
Right.
So certain ones can outpace the other ones in capability standards. And I think that you'll find that there'll be a little bit of a catch up on a couple of what I would call, you've got mechanical, analytical, instrumentation, electrical, all these different aspects of a mine or a gas plant or anything, right? And what I see is there seems to be a stagnation on electrical side.
Mm,
Now we do have all the software and all the wonders of a PLC, but basically electrical hardware hasn't changed. I mean, the squirrel cage motor hasn't changed since Nikola Tesla invented it, right? So I think we're going to see a catch up on the electrical side. I keep looking for another innovation from there. Instrumentation and analytical has just gone crazy with innovation for measurement, right? So trying to figure out, like thinking of using an acoustic fingerprint for a direct correlation to physical properties, somebody would just say you're nuts, right? Years ago, but somebody did it and figured out that relationship and then charted it out and figured out that that correlation was real. And like I would see the next step for that one is that there'll be like a registered methodology for that measurement. Like they have an ASTM measurement for these types of analytical. I think that we're going to see that written around this.
yeah. Yeah, it is scattered right now, and you're going to see like that association that you're a part of, the Fiber Optic Sensing Association. Do those kind of associations really help to sort of, I don't know if streamline is the right word, but to sort of help put a certain standard on the products that are going into the market?
Yeah, they do, and it's required. Um, it also weeds out the stories, if you know what I
Right,
mean.
I
It
do. I know exactly what
Yeah,
you mean. Yeah,
I was trying to use a different word for that. It's
that's okay.
yeah, it kind of does. It helps you stick with the facts and the developments, and everyone can then walk to a certain speed and then run to a certain speed.
Yeah.
So it's good to have somewhat of a governing body so somebody doesn't get out of line and talk ahead of themselves.
Right. Yeah, no, I don't think we should mince words with that because it is so important. It's not just for the industry moving ahead, but it's also how people perceive the industry and that they trust that those standards. When you put a mine into a community, those types of things matter, or a pipeline through a community. The
Yeah.
standards should be high. I mean, I don't want oil in my lake either. So
No,
yeah,
no, not at all. Or and it goes, it's beyond oil too. Like you learn from so many people in this industry, not just our people. I mean, I learn from my customers all the time. I just had an hour-long discussion about the damage of what leaky brine lines do to the world, and I was like, holy moly, that's horrible. Like, so there's more applications than oil and natural gas. I mean, there's other applications too for salt water that are big that I had no idea. And I, like I said, I learned from the customer that these were something that they really want to monitor.
yeah, yeah. No, it's absolutely amazing. I think before we, as we get to the tail end, Graham, I would like to highlight a couple projects because when you do an interview like this, it can kind of seem there's a whole bunch of technology. Fortunately, we've got lots of really videos. Thank you, Ellen, for putting those together. So we're going to actually be able to show the technology during the interview,
Mhm.
that the viewer can sort of see what you're doing. But I think it'd be nice to highlight. Is there a couple projects that stand out for you? Um,
Yeah, there
I
there
like.
was kind of like the first one that really got me involved with Hawk, and it was with Canfor, and it was the wood industry. And when I first got introduced to the Sultan itself, And I looked at that and I thought to myself, my God, I've listened to people complain about vindicators, like mechanical devices for chip bins and all sorts of things for measuring them. And so I worked towards getting involved in that. And the first thing I noticed that was different is it was driven by a completely different business unit. It was driven by logistics. The logistics people wanted to know, track the wood from basically from where it got cut down in the forest all the way through, whether they owned a pulp mill or if they sold the chips. Everything is a revenue stream now. So when we did this project with Canfor on their chip bins, we were the only company that could successfully measure and accurately measure the level of the wood chips, the shavings, the hog fuel, and the sawdust, not just the wood chips. And what we did is we worked with them, and they tied it into a DGS package, a data gathering system, kind of like a SCADA package that showed all of the production of their mills. And they added all the chip bins, all the sawdust bins, hog bins, every one of their bins to that. And they rolled them out on a mobile platform to the trucking companies that had the contracts. Well, the trucking companies were they loved it, because they were no longer sending a truck 2 hours to a mill to find out that the bins were empty because the planer went down that night. They were then given all that information. So it kind of like turned that one into terminal automation 101, right? They knew exactly how to track their product all the way through. And like I said, they're all a revenue stream. Now they know exactly. And in a way, like you kind of give yourself a pat on the back, knowing that you probably, reduced a whole bunch of carbon footprint too. Mm-hmm. From that one.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Just like you're stopping vehicles from driving all over the place. You kind of like did your bit for the environment while you're, increasing efficiencies and things like that. And I was really impressed working with their team. They not only did a volume and level measurement, but they also had an algorithm for compression for each one of their products. So they knew when it got to a certain fill level that the weight was going to compress it further. And there was challenges, but it was good challenges. It was stuff that you figured out quickly. There was a logical reasoning behind it. There was none of this ghost in the machine stuff.
Yeah.
Other ones were with the same product doing crusher level, like right inside a gyratory crusher, a very, very violent atmosphere. And we're doing level measurements through all that dust and everything through there. One of them at Tech Coal was doing a measurement into an in-pit hopper through a grizzly. So a grizzly is where the trucks dump onto it, and the product flows through. If there's a big boulder, it doesn't go down through down to the in-pit hopper and out to the conveyor, right? Doesn't break everything down. But we actually measured, through the bars, in between the bars of the grizzly, we measured the product on top, and we measured it all the way down to the bottom of the hopper. The sound waves just creep through basically we managed our gain steps and our distance steps and zeroed out the grizzly, that one space, right? So we're not going to measure that. But there's all sorts of neat things you can do with that product. But the orcas, we've got so many of them out there. It's hard to talk about one. You were constantly sending a guy out to start up an orca, or to work on one, or to like tune it to what they were trying to do or what they're trying to achieve with their thickener. Each time you find that they have different problems, again, that are all around you, but maybe they're not part of your device, but they all affect your device, right? So there's so many projects going on right now. And I mean, I can't go into the detail that I'd love to, but I'm involved in like 5, I believe, Race 21 projects with tech. And there's only so much detail we can get involved. And then all of the conveyor health and pipeline leak detection, they're all in the pipes. We are doing one trial right now on the conveyor health monitoring, and we're slowly working our way through it. It's challenging right now. We're having to pick, like, here we go, we got a few hours to get in there and this shut down. So I'm hoping that by the end of March, we're going to have a really good reference that we can splash out there in Canada too, in mining. So we're working very, very hard on getting that. And we're very much looking forward to this last shutdown so we can get to that final level of completion, right? And really, really show what this thing can do.
So part 2 of this show is in September then, right?
Oh, that'd be great. That'd be great. Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to, this is a bit of a tricky question. If you can't answer it, that's completely fine, Graham. But I was just wondering, what you said about Canfor having these algorithms, how, when you see companies like the Techs, the Canfors, they're in different industries, but they operate at that very high level.
Yeah.
And I know some people that work there. I mean, these people are efficient. They you just meet them and you can tell they're good at their job. Those types of people. How much value are they bringing the other way? Are you, when are you dealing with a Tech or a Canfor, are the products evolving because of the data that they have within their operations that are applicable to other industries and other mining operations or pulp and paper mills?
Absolutely. I pick up stuff like that from our customers all the time. And I can't say enough about the teams that I've been fortunate enough to work with at these companies. We build a team together with both these that are based on success, right? Anyone can make it not work. That's the easy way to do it. But if you put the right people on the right problem, on a problem specifically, we can make it work. And without that buy-in from the customer, it's really difficult. We really need to get that understanding right up front, and we need to get the right people to work with. And once we do that, man, it's just a great thing. It's a good feeling to be on a team like that.
To wrap up the interview, something that came to my mind looking through Hawk is there's so many measurement technologies and different offerings you have. When you go to an event like MIMO, or a bigger event like CIM or down in Vegas, some of these big shows, or just your general networking and everything like that, can it cause a challenge as well when you have so many solutions from so many different angles, or is that a plus? I don't really know if I'm asking the question right, but just sort of that initial discussion that you have is an advantage, or can it be a little overwhelming for people if they don't really understand all the offerings that you have?
I don't find it overwhelming, personally, but I think that's because I came from a distributor background. So think of that times 20, right?
Right.
So you had to be well versed in a lot of it. And I am blessed with an eidetic memory. So like I pick up all the stuff, I remember it. I remember details that I wish I didn't remember. I wish I had a delete file button, but I don't find it personally overwhelming. I find it sometimes if I see the customer make assumptions and try and apply something to a solution to a problem, that I go like right away, like that's not going to work. That's I know why you picked that. It would be inexpensive and simple, and it might be easy, but it's just going to lead to failure. So sometimes I'll find that happens. People will assume that let's just go with this, that'll do. And when you get to measurement, it doesn't work that way, right? It's a very fine, you go from this technology to this technology when these problems arise. That's why there's so many different forms of just level measurement alone, right?
Is there a lot of, when you're in those, to get to the point where you can tell to someone it's not going to work, of course they've got to be trusting you, this isn't an upsell. I'm actually telling you this is not the way you want to go. It's going to cost you more in the long run, and not going to be efficient. Is there a lot of lead up that gets to a point where you're able to build that trust, or are most people, because of the name, the Hawk, and I know a lot of people in the industry, do those conversations usually go pretty efficient?
Yeah, they do with me. I usually just try and let them know that, a bad application isn't good for anyone. It isn't good for Hawk. It isn't good for me. It isn't good for the end user. It isn't good for the contractor that's trying to install this. So it just doesn't make sense. So I try and push back, gently and politely as much as I can. But usually my voice is heard. We try to make sure that you can't stop everyone from doing that, right? But you do definitely, it's a challenge, but you definitely have to just make sure you don't, if they're going to go that way anyway, you have to just say, look, I'm here to support you, but I really don't have a good feeling about this. I'll help you, but I don't think that we're heading down the right track. We're not heading for success. We're not going to give you a really good measurement here. Nothing repeatable and accurate.
Yeah, it's, just getting to know you a little bit leading up to this interview. I mean, being the people in the industry that make you maybe feel good in that moment, they get old really, really fast.
Yeah.
I'm sure you run into as many as I have, or probably more, but the people that are blunt and down the line, there's different personalities, obviously, that come along with it. But once you get that reputation as a company or as an individual, then it just cuts away so much of the nonsense that you have to deal with. Yeah,
it does.
Yeah, it's. I'm glad Hawk came on the show. It's we've done a lot of shows around measurements and tailings ponds, and went on the energy show on pipelines, and so this was really a nice rounded out interview, Graham. So thanks for coming on the show. Thanks to your team, Ellen. She was such a big help in putting this together. So I hope Hawk comes back, because I feel like we just sort of scratched the surface of kind of who Hawk is, but now there's so much more, and maybe we can actually dig into a couple of these projects in the future.
Yeah, that'd be great. The fall would be lovely to be able to do a little bit of a follow-up to this show, and then we could talk about more of the things that we're involved in now.
Yeah. Thank you, Graham. We'll hopefully have you back.
Thank you.
Well, thank you everyone for watching. I love this kind of stuff, and Hawk, it was going through it. It's just, there's so much to learn, and people like Graham that are actually dealing hands-on with the customers, but they have a good understanding of the product. They make such an interesting interview. Yeah. Gowdy, where can people go to comment on what they thought of this amazing interview?
Well, please remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss a single episode. You can also comment in the description of this video. Again, good, bad, we want to hear it all. We've got 2 episodes a week on our channel. Please, please, please remember to subscribe. If you'd like to be part of the show, the Crownsman Show, or if you're looking to be on Crownsman Energy or Mining Now, contact us, info@crownsman.com. Wow, for a second I was like, what? I don't remember our email. info@crownsman.com.
Thank you very much. Thank you everyone for watching. Please keep the comments coming. Please keep sending us guests. It is really, and I've said this so many times, but I'll say it 1,000 more times. It is really helping us put good shows together. So please just connect us with them. We'll reach out and see if there's an interest in being on, but appreciate the people that are doing it now. Thank you, Graham, for coming on the show. Thank you to Ellen Nichols for putting the show together. And thank you to Hawk Measurement Systems for offering so many good products across mass different industries and promoting on our show. Thank you very much. We'll see you on the next episode of The Crownsman Show.